Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. And today, we are continuing our series of Ask Me Anythings over the next roughly 5 days for this week. From Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we are doing solo casts where I am actually answering questions from our audience, from my email list, and also from our Get Published Facebook group. And today, I have been asked to answer the following question, and it is a doozy: overcoming writer's block and imposter syndrome. And I think as authors, this is one of the biggest issues that we have. We don't always think that we're good enough. And I think that's something that we really need to cover, because I want to give you my example. Back in 2011, and many of you know this story, I was a mess health-wise. May 2011, was feeling terrible, went to see the doctor, gave me the full run of tests, and he said, listen, you're 340 pounds, you're right at that point where you're type 2 diabetic, high blood pressure. If you don't get your act together, you'll be dead in 5 years. And that moment completely changed my life, because what I chose to do was to eat less, move more, and I was able to take off over 60 pounds. And I'm 6'3", I'm a big fella anyway, but I was able to keep the weight off, and I was inspired to write a book about it. Problem was, I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have systems at the time. So what happened? That book got put off for 4 years. I had other friends that published books. They had a lot of success, and they kept telling me, why do you keep waiting? Why do you keep making excuses? And finally, June 2015, I decided to stop making excuses. I was on a flight to Vegas, and in midair, probably about 30,000 feet, I decided no more excuses. The next day, I'm at the Mirage by the pool and typed out the entire outline of my first book, Eat Less and Move More. A week later, over 3 days, I got it done. I overcame that imposter syndrome, because if my friends can get books out, why can't I? My content's just as good as theirs. And that's one of the biggest things. You just have to not be afraid to take the plunge, and also realize that done is better than perfect. And that's tough. And those are two mantras that I learned, in particularly during that time. And those are two of the main mantras I teach my clients, especially when they're dealing with that imposter syndrome. And then the other thing is overcoming writer's block. One of the things that I am a huge fan of: structures, systems, processes, right? For my publishing business, systems based. For my virtual summit business, systems based. And it is the same thing when you write a book. What is the first part of your system? You create an outline. What's the first thing that I did in Vegas? Wrote an outline. What do you need for a book? You need 10 key talking points, 10 chapters. It doesn't need to be the next great novel. It doesn't need to be the Great Gatsby, or it doesn't need to be War and Peace. You need to have a story that connects to people. You also don't need to have a long story. You need to have something, I would say ideally, 15 to 30,000 words. And the main thing is this: people's attention spans are shorter than ever right now, especially in the current climate. People want something that they can digest easily, something that's simplified to the point and can be consumed in roughly 2 hours. Less than 20% of books ever get finished cover to cover. And why is that? Because they're too dang long. My advice: focus on 10 key talking points in your book. And here's the thing: you don't have to do them in order. If you are more engaged with something on chapter 7, then do chapter 7 first, because I'm a huge believer in the creative process. And the thing is, once you get started, you're not going to stop. It's like getting on the bike. It's like getting in the pool. You're going to keep going But as Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with those first steps. So the main thing is get those first steps done. So if you want to avoid writer's block, you need to be able to structure. And the other thing is, don't make excuses. Just start. And I know that's a very simple thing for me to say, but it's the truth. Just do it. Just like the shoe. And ironically enough, I actually wrote a book called Just Do It. It's just get over that procrastination and make it a habit. And I'll give you an example. I have now exercised for, and I've lost count, but I would say probably 100 and close to 140 days in a row right now. Do I like to exercise? Not before COVID. But with COVID, with stress, with everything else that's going on, with sheltering in place, I needed an outlet. So I developed a habit several months ago where I am on my exercise bike. Unfortunately, I bought an exercise bike from Aldi a year and a half ago. It was an amazing coat rack until I decided to get on with it. And I have made that bike my 15 minutes of fury every single day, where I'm on that bike and I'm typically averaging at this point between 21 and 24 miles per hour and just getting the stress out. Now, is it a workout now? No, it's a habit. And that's the same thing with writing. I would budget time every single day. And I know there's two different styles of writers. My style, personally, I write when the inspiration hits. But there's also writers that need structure. And if you are struggling with writer's block, then you need structure. And ironically, the wonderful lady that actually asked me this question is one of my clients. And one of the things that we did was we unpacked all her content that she wanted to talk about, and we looked at it like a room. Okay, in the living room, you got these pieces. In the office, you have these pieces. In the master bedroom, you have these pieces. And we helped her unpack those and was able to get her into a structure. And ironically enough, she's actually just sent me, I believe, chapter 8 of her book this weekend. And what we did with her was we gave her a weekly deadline. We said, listen, every week we need to get a chapter from you. And it started where the deadline was Sunday night. And yes, Annalise, I know you're probably listening to this, so you don't mind me sharing the story. But when it started, we were getting those chapters probably 11:30 p.m. on Sunday. So right before that deadline. But then we started to get chapters earlier in the day. And then these last few weeks, we've actually received our chapters on Saturdays. And that's the thing. Once you get into this creative process and make it a habit, it's the same thing of working out. I make that a habit. I don't look at that as a workout anymore. I don't look at it as anything to do, with the exception that that is now part of my day. That is a habit. It is time to get on with it. And it is the same exact thing in regards to your writing habit. Dedicate an hour every day. And if you don't have an hour, dedicate half an hour. If you don't have half an hour, dedicate 15 minutes. The other thing is turn off distractions. Wi-Fi, off. Phone, off. Have Microsoft Word out and just start typing, or utilize the voice memo app that's already in your smartphone. So I'm telling you, there's no excuses on this. It's in your smartphone. Find voice memo, hit record, start talking. And then what you can do is utilize a service like Otter.ai. They're like $10 a month. All you do is you send it over to Otter AI, and then they transcribe it. Typically 90% accuracy. You go in, you clean it up. Guess what? You have a chapter. Ideally, how long do chapters need to be? If you're going to do it audio-wise, I would say roughly 10 to 12 minutes. If you're going to type it out, then I would say roughly between 1,000 and 2,000 words, just depending on how inspired you are and how much progress you're making. But again, this doesn't have to be difficult. It is embracing the habit, and it's also embracing just getting on with it, making this part of your day, and make this excuse proof. Because I'm going to say this right now, every single person has a story. Every person that's listening to this podcast right now, you all have stories. Stop making excuses. You can totally do this. And whether you're utilizing a coach or a publishing business like mine, or just doing it yourself. I mean, that's how I started. I just did it myself. to get that process going. So trust me, if I can publish 15 books, about to be 16, over 5 years, then you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. But the main things is this. 1, don't be afraid to take the plunge, and done is better than perfect. As always, I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead. Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.